What happens when a young student's ambition collides with the desires of a powerful millionaire? Is love truly the most dangerous game they'll ever play? Imagine a life where everything seems attainable: wealth, success, and admiration. Now imagine it all being within your grasp except one thing: the woman you want is the one you cannot have. This is the story of a man with everything but love and a student willing to do anything to claim her. In today's video, we explore a tale of ambition, obsession, and the lengths one man will go to win the heart of his teacher, a woman who holds the key to his future. The story begins with a simple ambition. A student named Aram is determined to marry his teacher, Professor Alina, a woman whose intellect and grace captivate him beyond measure. Aram, despite his humble beginnings, has a secret weapon: his growing wealth, gained from his connections with a powerful millionaire. But as Aram's pursuit of love begins, the line between ambition and obsession blurs, and the stakes rise higher than he could have ever imagined. Professor Alina, unaware of his growing affection, tries to maintain professional distance, but as Aram's power and influence expand, so does his pursuit of her. What started as innocent admiration turns into a battle of wits, manipulation, and desire. When Aram uses his resources to charm and win her over, he realizes that his heart and his wealth are at the mercy of someone far more cunning and dangerous than he had ever anticipated. What will happen when a student's ambition for love becomes an uncontrollable force, and when one man's power is no match for the heart's true desires? The atmosphere is heavy. The university campus, once a place of learning and possibility, now feels like a battlefield. Aram stands at the back of the lecture hall, watching Professor Alina with intense focus. The light from the window reflects off her glasses, and for a moment, everything in the world seems to stand still. She speaks passionately about history, her voice calm and steady, but to Aram, every word she says seems like a key unlocking the door to his future. Despite the crowd of students, there is a profound loneliness in the air, an invisible divide between them. Aram's heart beats faster as he watches her, knowing that what he wants is just out of reach. His desire to win her affection begins to consume him. The more he thinks about her, the more certain he becomes. He will do whatever it takes. As the class ends and students begin to file out, the tension thickens. Aram's gaze lingers on Alina as she packs her things. There's a magnetism in the way she moves, graceful, confident, and out of reach. His resolve hardens, setting up curiosity to keep viewer hooked. But here's the twist. What if this isn't just a simple love story? What if Aram's pursuit of Alina isn't just about love? It's about power, manipulation, and the cost of his ambition. What if the woman he's fighting for isn't just a professor, but someone with secrets of her own? As Aram sets his plan into motion, the question remains, will he ever truly win her heart? Or will his ambition be his undoing? Let's dive deeper into the world of ambition, love, and the dangerous consequences of chasing after something or someone you can never truly possess. The university is alive with the energy of a new semester. Students rush between classes, eager to meet their peers and dive into the new academic challenges. But inside the lecture hall, the atmosphere feels completely different, almost oppressive. The air is thick with the weight of expectations. The room is full, yet Aram feels utterly alone. He takes his seat in the back row, his eyes drawn immediately to the front of the room, where Professor Alina stands, effortlessly commanding the space. The morning sunlight filters through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the room. The sound of her voice, clear and melodic, fills the air. But to Aram, it's not just the content of her lecture that captivates him. It's her presence. The way she moves, her graceful gestures, the way she seems to know just how to command attention without raising her voice. Every student in the room listens intently, but Aram isn't listening to her lecture on philosophy. He's studying her every word, every movement. Her poised demeanor is like a riddle he can't solve, and the more he tries, the more he becomes obsessed with finding the answer. The rest of the class fades away as he focuses on her, the world outside the classroom falling into a blur. His gaze lingers on her every move, and in that moment, The space between them feels insurmountable. She's the untouchable professor, the embodiment of everything he admires and desires, and he, the student with dreams larger than his station, wants more than just her admiration. He wants her heart. For Aram, this isn't a simple crush. This is an obsession. He sits there, the heat of his gaze never leaving her as she writes on the board, the words forming into a narrative that only he's invested in. He can feel his heart pounding in his chest, a rhythm he's come to know too well whenever she's near. He's driven, single-minded, and desperate for her approval and affection. But there's something else beneath his resolve, a creeping fear. He has it all, or so he believes. He's wealthy, powerful, and a rising star in the business world. Yet none of that matters to him now. It's her he wants, and nothing else can fill the void that her absence creates in his heart. He doesn't know what it is about her that holds him in such a vice-like grip, but he's aware of one thing. He needs to control the situation. He needs to make her see him the way he sees her. And the more he thinks about it, the more obsessed he becomes with the idea of being the man who wins her over. But he's aware that there's a chance, no, a certainty that he might fail. The uncertainty stirs something inside him, a feeling that he's losing control. His entire life has been about success, about winning, and the idea that there's something beyond his reach eats away at him. For Professor Alina, the situation is far less complicated, or so she thinks. She's unaware of Aram's inner turmoil. To her, he's just another student with the typical crush, a fleeting admiration that fades with time. She's seen it all before. She's accustomed to being admired, to the attention of men, but she's learned to guard herself against it. Her focus is on her career, her students, and the knowledge she shares with them. But Aram's gaze is different. It's intense, unyielding, and it unsettles her. She's not naive. She knows the power of her presence, the allure of her intelligence and beauty, but there's something about Aram's persistence that makes her uneasy. She senses that there's more to his admiration than meets the eye. Her own emotional struggle lies in maintaining the boundaries between teacher and student. She has seen the consequences of crossing those lines and has vowed never to let her personal life interfere with her professional one. But as Aram becomes more fixated on her, she's left questioning how much longer she can maintain that distance without things spiraling out of control. The shift in their dynamic begins on a day like any other. The lecture room is full, but Aram's mind is elsewhere. His mind races, thoughts swirling around her, around his desire for her. He can't focus on the lesson. He can't focus on anything except how close he is to her, physically and emotionally. And as she speaks, something snaps inside him. A desire to break the silence, to reach out and finally connect with her in a way that he's been longing for. "Professor," he interrupts, his voice breaking the flow of the lecture. He doesn't care if he's disrupting the class. Nothing else matters. Alina stops mid-sentence, looking at him, surprised by his sudden interruption. The room falls silent, all eyes on Aram. He stands from his seat, his heart pounding, and speaks, his words coming out in a rush. "Why do you push me away? I know what you feel, Alina. You can pretend all you want, but you and I both know that there's something between us. I can't keep pretending that I'm just another student in your class. I want you, and I'll do anything to prove it." The class remains silent, tension hanging heavy in the air. Aram's declaration is bold, unrestrained, and filled with a desperation that surprises even him. He's never spoken to her like this before, but now that he has, he can't take it back. Alina's face hardens. She's taken aback by his audacity but maintains her composure. Her eyes narrow as she responds firmly, "Aram, I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is unacceptable. I'm your professor, and nothing beyond that exists between us. Do not make this mistake again." Aram is taken aback by her words, his chest tightening. For a brief moment his world tilts. He thought she would understand, that she would see the depth of his feelings, but instead, she's shutting him out. The rejection stings more than he could have anticipated. Her words linger in the air, the silence after them heavy with unsaid things. She doesn't want him. She doesn't want any part of him. And yet, Even as he stands there, the weight of the class's eyes on him, Aram refuses to give up. His pride won't let him. He won't be dismissed so easily. You think you can just ignore this, Alina? But you're wrong. I won't back down. He mutters, almost to himself, but loud enough for her to hear. Alina's gaze softens for a moment, but she remains resolute. Then you will suffer the consequences, Aram. The room is still, the tension palpable. Their relationship is no longer about teacher and student. It's become a game, and Aram has already crossed a line he can never uncross. The stakes have been raised. Aram's frustration grows with every passing day. Every glance he shares with Alina, every word he tries to utter in her presence, is met with coldness. He's used to controlling every situation, but with her, nothing goes as planned. His wealth, his status, none of it seems to matter to her. She remains distant, a mystery he cannot solve, and the more she pushes him away, the more obsessed he becomes. He watches her from across the lecture hall, noting how easily she commands attention, how the other students hang on her every word. She's powerful, but it's a different kind of power. It's not the power he wields with his money or influence. No, this is something far deeper. It's her ability to remain untouchable, to keep him at arm's length no matter how hard he tries to bridge that gap. But as each day passes, his internal conflict deepens. Aram's carefully constructed world, one of control, domination, and success, begins to unravel. He starts questioning everything he thought he knew about power and relationships. He's never been challenged in this way before, and the uncertainty gnaws at him. He tells himself that he can win her over, that he will get her to see him as more than just a student, but every rejection drives him further into madness. What he doesn't realize is that this pursuit is more than just about Alina. It's about the control he craves, the validation he needs. He's always been the one to call the shots, to get whatever he wants, but Alina's refusal to bend to his will eats away at him in ways nothing else has before. Every failed attempt to get closer to her chips away at his confidence. And soon, he begins to doubt the very foundations of the world he's built for himself. The breaking point comes one afternoon, during a meeting after class. Aram, having grown bolder with his advances, manages to corner Alina in the quiet of her office. He's no longer interested in subtle gestures or small talk. He's tired of playing the game and wants to confront her directly. I don't understand you, Alina, he begins, his voice a mix of frustration and determination. Why do you keep pushing me away? I have everything you could want. I can give you anything, everything. Why won't you accept it? Alina's back is turned as she gathers her papers, but she knows this conversation is inevitable. She's been preparing for it, in a way, but the intensity in his voice still catches her off guard. She turns to face him, her eyes narrowing slightly. You think you know everything about me, don't you? She asks, her voice calm but tinged with sarcasm. You think that just because you have money, status, or whatever else you think makes you irresistible, I'll fall for you? Aram steps forward, his chest tight with emotion. You don't know me, Alina. You don't know what I'm capable of. You think you can keep me at a distance, but I won't let you. The words hang in the air between them, charged with tension. For a moment, neither speaks. Alina looks at him, her gaze unwavering. No, Aram, she says quietly, her voice almost a whisper. You don't know me at all. You think I'm just another woman to be won over by your charms, your wealth, but you couldn't be more wrong. The realization hits Aram like a punch to the gut. For the first time, he sees the truth in her eyes. This isn't a game for her. This isn't about what he can offer her. Alina doesn't want him, and she's not interested in being swayed by his power. She's been indifferent to his advances, not because she's playing hard to get, but because she truly doesn't care about him in the way he's imagined. I'm not a prize to be won, she continues, her voice now steady, almost detached. I'm not a trophy for you to display. I'm a person, Aram. And if you don't understand that, then you're already lost. In that moment, everything shifts for Aram. The illusion he's been holding on to, the belief that his wealth and influence can win him anything, shatters. He's not in control of this situation. He's not the one calling the shots. In fact, for the first time in his life, he realizes he's the one being played. Her words sink in slowly, but they hit him with the force of a tidal wave. Alina's power lies not in her wealth or status, but in her ability to remain untouched by him, to remain unaffected by his wealth and charm. She has something he's never known, a sense of self, of independence, that no amount of money or power can manipulate. Aram feels his grip on the situation slip further and further away. His mind races as he processes the implications. He thought he could win her over with enough persistence, but Alina isn't just rejecting him. She's rejecting the entire system he's built around himself. And that's what hurts the most. In a twisted way, he understands her now. She's not like the other women he's had in his life, who admired him for his wealth or status. Alina doesn't care about those things. She sees through him, and that makes him feel vulnerable, exposed in a way he's never felt before. With this newfound understanding comes a growing sense of desperation. Aram's desire to win her over becomes even more obsessive. He's lost his grip on the situation, and that makes him even more dangerous. The stakes are no longer just about a relationship. This is about power, control, and ego. Aram's entire world is crumbling, and he'll do anything to rebuild it by winning her heart. But Alina isn't backing down. She doesn't know it yet, but she's in even more danger now. Aram's need to control her has become more intense, and with each failed attempt, his anger and frustration grow. What started as a harmless crush, a student's infatuation with his professor, has now spiraled into something far darker, something that neither of them could have predicted. As Aram continues his pursuit, the consequences of his actions become more apparent. The people around him start noticing the changes in his behavior, his increased irritability, his obsessive focus on Alina. Even his closest friends begin to question what's going on. But Aram doesn't care. His mind is consumed with one thought. He must have her, and he's willing to go to any lengths to make it happen. The emotional and psychological stakes for both of them are now higher than ever. The boundaries between student and teacher, between professional and personal, have been blurred beyond recognition. And as Aram digs himself deeper into his obsession, the danger only grows. The deeper he falls, the harder it will be to escape. The tension has been building for days, and Aram can feel the walls closing in around him. His obsession with Alina has only intensified, each day more consumed by his thoughts of her, his desires, and his growing sense of fear. The once confident millionaire has become a man unraveling, not just in his ambitions but in his very understanding of the world. He's no longer the man who could get anything he wanted. Alina has become a symbol of something much bigger, his loss of control. As Aram watches her from a distance, her calm presence seems like a fortress, while his own world is crumbling, piece by piece. He feels vulnerable, exposed in a way he never has before. He's never had to fight for anything, not really, but now, with Alina, nothing he does seems to matter. He doesn't understand why. But a growing sense of dread gnaws at him, the sensation that something much deeper is at play, something he's not yet fully aware of. One evening, he receives a call from Alina. It's unexpected, the tone in her voice both calm and eerily cold. "We need to talk," she says before hanging up. The finality in her words sends a chill down his spine. He doesn't know what she's going to say, but he knows this conversation will change everything. When he meets her at the cafe later that evening, the air between them is thick with unspoken tension. Aram tries to mask his unease with a forced smile, but Alina doesn't reciprocate. She's colder than ever, her eyes sharp as she watches him. There's something in her gaze, a knowing look, as if she sees straight through him. Alina's voice breaks through the silence between them, carrying the weight of something momentous. "You think you've been playing a game, Aram," she begins, her words measured and precise. "But the truth is, you've been the one who's been played all along." Aram's heart skips a beat. The words seem to echo in his head, but they don't quite make sense. His mind races, trying to process what she's saying. He thought he was the one who had the upper hand, the one who controlled the situation. But now, her words are like a crack in his carefully constructed world. He leans forward, his breath shallow. "What are you talking about?" Her lips curl into a thin smile, but there's no warmth in it. You thought I was just a teacher, just someone to be won over, didn't you? But you've underestimated me, Aram. And you've underestimated what you've done to my family. The bombshell drops like a bomb. Aram's mind reels as the weight of her words sinks in. She's not just another woman he's pursuing. She's not just playing hard to get. No, Alina's connection to him is deeper and more personal than he ever imagined. She's not some distant figure in his life. She's connected to him in ways he's never understood. My father lost everything because of you, she says, her voice colder now, tinged with something darker. Resentment, pain, and a bitter history. The words hit Aram like a punch to the gut. His mind reels, trying to connect the dots. Her father, his business dealings, his cutthroat approach to winning, had ruined countless lives, but he never imagined that one of those lives would come back to haunt him like this. I didn't, he stammers, but the words die in his throat. There's no defense. His past actions have caught up to him in the form of the woman he's been chasing, and he now realizes he's been blind to the consequences of his own ambition. Aram stands frozen, the truth crashing over him like a tidal wave. His body feels heavy, as if the very air is pressing down on him. The weight of Alina's words is suffocating, and for the first time, he feels powerless. His thoughts are a whirlwind, desperately trying to find some logic, some way to deny what she's saying. He can't. He can't deny that his business dealings, his ruthless ambition, have destroyed lives, including hers. Guilt floods him, but it's not just guilt for his actions. It's guilt for how he's treated her, for how he's objectified her, seen her as a mere conquest in a game he thought he controlled. Now, the true cost of his actions is staring him in the face. He feels sick, his stomach twisting with regret. He's never been this vulnerable, never been made to feel so small. Her words, her revelation, strip him of everything he thought he knew about himself. He's not the powerful millionaire who can buy anything and anyone. He's a man who has hurt the person he most desires, and there's no way to undo it. The moment the truth is out, everything between them shifts. It's as if an invisible thread that once connected them is snapped, and in that instant, the bond they shared, however fragile, disappears. Alina is no longer the object of his desire. She's not the woman he thought he could win with his wealth or charm. She's someone who has endured the consequences of his actions. And now, in a cruel twist, it's Aram who is left to deal with the fallout. For Alina, the revelation changes nothing and everything. She no longer feels any need to hide her resentment. She no longer has to play the role of the teacher, the professional. The gloves are off. She's no longer a victim in this story. She's the one with the power. She's the one who's been hurt, and now she holds the key to Aram's future. She's no longer the one seeking validation or permission from him. The tables have turned, and Aram has no idea how to regain his footing. I should have known, Alina says, standing up from the table, her voice cool and detached. But I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe that someone like you could be so heartless. She turns to leave, but Aram reaches out, grabbing her wrist. There's desperation in his touch, something raw and unrefined. Please, he begs, his voice low, pleading. I never knew your father was involved. Alina, I'm sorry. Please don't leave me like this. For a moment, she stands still, as if considering his words. But then, she pulls her wrist free from his grip, her gaze hardening. You don't get to be sorry, Aram. Not now. Not after everything. And with that, she walks away, leaving Aram standing in the middle of the cafe, shattered, broken, and lost in a world of his own making. The revelation has shattered the dynamic between them. Aram's sense of control is gone, and Alina is no longer the woman he thought he could conquer. The emotional toll on both of them is profound, and as the story unfolds, there will be no going back. Their paths are now forever altered, and the fallout from this truth will shape their destinies. In the aftermath of their confrontation, Aram feels an overwhelming sense of dread every time he thinks about Alina. The guilt that has taken root inside him claws at him relentlessly. Every step he takes seems to echo the consequences of his actions. His once imposing presence feels hollow, like a man playing a part he no longer believes in. He knows what he did and it's suffocating him. In the silence of his luxury penthouse, he can't escape the truth. The images of her face, of their moments together, now mock him. She was never a mere conquest, never a simple target to be won. He had underestimated her, thinking his wealth and power would be enough to manipulate her feelings, to bind her to him. Now all he feels is the weight of his mistakes. Each time he crosses her path, whether it's in the hallways of the university or through a brief interaction at social gatherings, he's reminded of how much he's lost. Her coldness, her disinterest, cuts deeper than any words. She's no longer the vulnerable woman he thought he could control. Instead, she has become the embodiment of everything he's failed to achieve. The man who once held the reins now feels entirely powerless. The psychological toll is evident. He cannot sleep at night. Every conversation, every business meeting feels empty. He's unable to focus on anything other than the way she has pulled away from him. The way her gaze now holds no trace of the affection it once had. It's a reminder of his arrogance and his blind desire to control her heart, to possess her. The repercussions of Aram's actions are starting to bleed into every aspect of his life. The empire he once built with such care and pride is beginning to crumble. What he had thought was an unshakable foundation is now teetering on the edge of ruin. His business dealings, once smooth and efficient, have become a battlefield. He faces unexpected setbacks in every direction. His competitors, who once feared his influence, now sense weakness in him and have started to exploit it. Deals that he once thought were secure begin to fall apart, and his grip on the corporate world grows weaker with every failed negotiation. People in his circle are starting to question his ability to lead. His trusted colleagues, those who once adored him, begin to distance themselves. They no longer see the confident, powerful man they once looked up to. Instead, they see a man unraveling, consumed by his mistakes, unable to keep up with the demands of his high-powered life. Even in his personal life, the reminders of his failures are inescapable. He can't walk through the grand hallways of his home without seeing traces of the life he thought he would build with Alina. Photos of them from happier days, lingering gifts, the little things that once meant so much now feel like bitter reminders. His wealth, once a symbol of control, now feels hollow. His money, his success have failed to bring him peace. He could buy anything, anything but her forgiveness, anything but the redemption he so desperately seeks. His empire, the one thing that had defined him, is now just an empty shell, and with it, so is his self-worth. In stark contrast, Alina stands tall as the master of her own destiny. The power dynamics have shifted entirely. The woman Aram thought he could manipulate has not only freed herself from his grasp, but has also taken full control of her life. Where Aram once ruled, Alina now commands the space between them. Her actions are methodical and purposeful. She's no longer the timid student he thought he could win over with promises and material wealth. She's become the architect of her own future, and she's done it without him. Her distance, her cold indifference, is a direct response to his actions, and every day she grows stronger in her resolve. Alina has not only severed the ties that once bound her to him, but she has also begun to dismantle the world he once thought he controlled. She's actively taking charge of her life, academically, personally, and professionally. What Aram once saw as his domain, his influence over her, his position as her superior, now holds no power over her. Where once she had been a part of his plans, she is now independent. She has surpassed the man who once believed he could mold her. And as Aram watches from the sidelines, the stark reality hits him. Alina is no longer the person he thought he knew. She is someone else entirely, someone who doesn't need him to succeed, and that realization shakes him to his core. The desperation begins to take hold of Aram in ways that are almost unrecognizable. He's aware of how far he's fallen, but he refuses to accept that this is the end. He begins reaching out, not just through messages or calls, but through desperate attempts to win her back in person. He tries to manipulate the situation, hoping that his wealth, his charm, his apologies will somehow bridge the divide. He calls her, arranges meetings, and even shows up at her office unannounced. He tries to win back her affection, to break down the walls she's put up, but nothing works. His words fall flat. His promises of change feel like hollow gestures. Alina remains resolute. She doesn't respond to his messages or calls, and when he finally manages to speak with her, her demeanor is cold, detached, as if he is nothing more than a shadow of a past she's left behind. She listens to him, but her eyes hold no emotion, no warmth, no anger, just a quiet dismissal. Aram, she says, her voice unwavering, I've moved on. You need to do the same. Her words cut through him like a blade. There's no trace of the young woman he once knew, the one who believed in the promises he made. She's no longer seeking his approval, his validation. She doesn't need him. And in that moment, he understands that everything he's done to try and regain her has been futile. He has lost her forever. The realization hits him with the full weight of its truth. The power he once held over her, the hold he thought he had on her heart, is gone. In its place, there is only emptiness. He is left alone with the bitter taste of regret and the stark reality that he has nothing left but the consequences of his own actions. The weight of the last few weeks has taken its toll on Aram. He watches the days bleed into each other, a relentless march toward a fate he can't avoid. Every attempt to mend his shattered world, every plea he has made, has been met with coldness, indifference, and rejection. He's tired of fighting for something he no longer knows how to control. His empire is crumbling, his relationships are strained, and Alina, once the focal point of his every ambition, is completely out of reach. The last thread of his hope lies in this final confrontation. In his desperation, he believes this one moment may somehow bring him the redemption he craves, the absolution he feels he deserves. Aram arrives at her apartment, his heart pounding in his chest. His mind races with all the things he wants to say, the apologies, the promises of change. But as he rings the doorbell, a feeling of dread washes over him. This is it. There's no turning back now. When she opens the door, the air between them is thick with unspoken words. Alina stands before him, her presence commanding, her expression unreadable. The woman who once seemed fragile and vulnerable now feels like a fortress. You came. Her voice is neither welcoming nor hostile, just a quiet acknowledgement of his presence. I had to, Aram replies, his voice strained with emotion. Alina, please, I know I've done things that can't be undone, but I need you to understand how much I regret it. I need you to see that I'm not the man I was. I've changed. Alina steps back slightly, a quiet laugh escaping her lips. There's no humor in it. It's the sound of a woman who has seen enough to know that words are empty, that promises are meaningless when they come from someone who has already shown their true face. Changed? She echoes, her eyes searching his with a cold, calculating gaze. You think you've changed? You think you can undo everything you've done just because you've finally realized the cost of your actions? Her words sting, cutting through his fragile defenses. He takes a step forward, but she doesn't move. Instead, she looks at him with a mixture of pity and disdain. You used me, Aram, she continues, her voice rising slightly, a tremor of anger slipping through. You thought I was just a game, a bet, a trophy to be won. But I'm not some prize you can claim when you've grown bored of the chase. She doesn't shout. There's no dramatic outburst. Instead, her anger simmers beneath the surface, controlled, contained, but more devastating because of it. She's not fighting for his approval anymore. She's fighting for her own sense of dignity, her own identity, things he has threatened with his actions. And then it hits him. This confrontation, this final moment, is not about winning her back. It's about facing the truth of who he has become and who she is now. Alina doesn't need him. She has already moved on. And with that, she has taken every ounce of power he once thought he had. Aram stands frozen in the doorway, his words choking in his throat. The realization settles in, as crushing as a weight on his chest. There is no redemption. There is no second chance. She has already moved on, and he has nothing left to offer her. In the silence that follows, the gravity of his situation dawns on him. His empire, his wealth, his status, none of it matters. He's a man whose actions have stripped him of his integrity. And now, standing before the woman he once desired, he is nothing. His guilt gnaws at him with an intensity he never thought possible. I thought I could control everything, he whispers almost to himself. But I was wrong. Alina doesn't respond immediately. She simply watches him, her gaze unwavering. For a long moment, there's nothing but the quiet sound of their breathing, the weight of his words hanging in the air. And then, finally, she speaks. I'm not the same woman you used to know, Aram, she says softly, her voice no longer cold but filled with a quiet strength. I've learned what it means to be in control of my own life, my own heart. You may have broken me once, but that's no longer who I am. It's a statement of finality. The last piece of him that hoped for reconciliation, that longed for redemption, shatters in that moment. He is left standing there, the man who thought he could change his destiny, now utterly defeated by the consequences of his own choices. His knees feel weak as the weight of it all crashes down on him. He's no longer the man who thought he could control everything. He's broken, a shadow of his former self, left to pick up the pieces of a life that once seemed perfect. As he stands there, motionless, something inside him begins to shift. There is no more pride, no more arrogance, no more illusions. He sees clearly now, with brutal honesty, the path that led him here. For so long, Aram believed that wealth, power, and control were the keys to happiness. He thought that if he could conquer the world around him, he could conquer his emotions too. But now, in this moment of reckoning, he understands the true cost of his ambition. Alina was never just a prize. She was a person, with hopes, dreams, and a life beyond his reach. And in his pursuit of her, in his need to possess her, he destroyed everything they could have shared. He sees now that his own insecurities, his need for control, pushed her away. The more he tried to force her into his vision of the future, the more he lost her. The man who once thought himself untouchable now stands humbled and broken, facing the painful truth. His quest for control and his desire for power have only led to ruin. As he walks away from Alina's door for the last time, Aram feels the weight of everything he has lost. He is a man without a future, without a purpose, and most painfully of all, without her. The lessons of the past echo in his mind, lessons that came too late. He is no longer the man who believed he could control everything. He's just a man who now has to live with the consequences of his greed, his arrogance, and his unrelenting ambition. Closure of the story. What began as a game. An ambitious young man with a plan to win the heart of his teacher, driven by pride and the desire for control, ended in devastation. Aram's journey was one of ambition, manipulation, and, ultimately, self-destruction. The power he once held in his hands, the wealth and influence that seemed like everything to him, proved to be meaningless in the face of true consequence. Alina, the woman he sought to control, showed him the hardest lesson. No amount of money or status can shield you from the fallout of your actions. What he saw as a game to win her over, she turned into a battle for her own agency, her own power. The truth is, it wasn't about her falling in love with him. It was about him learning to understand the value of respect, honesty, and integrity. In the end, Aram found himself broken, facing the irreversible damage he'd done not just to his empire, but to his very soul. As the pieces of his life fall apart, the question looms. Will he ever recover? Can a man like him change after everything he's done? Or is he doomed to live with the weight of his guilt forever? What do you think? Can someone like Aram truly change? Or is his past too much to overcome? Does his guilt define him? Or is there hope for redemption? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters, and I'd love to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking videos like this one. Stay tuned for more content that dives into the complexities of human nature, power, and the consequences of our actions. See you in the next video.